like the threat.
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't never really wanna flex my gifts, but I think it's my time, let me check my wrist. You can never dim my shine, I'ma keep on grinding till I reach the tip top. When it's just in my jeans and I ain't looking back, cause I'm feeling like Chris Cross. They can never slow me down, but they need to hate me, now I'm feeling like Chris. Rock with the team, cause you know that we winning, we with it, we going, we flowing again. I might just go by a Benz, I might just blow my advance, whoa. I did it all for the feeling, alive but I'm making a killing. I'm gonna break every ceiling, cause I need $1 million, but I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Cause once I do it big, what's to follow, it's a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Oh yeah. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't been feeling spectacular, flow so sick it's hazardous. Y'all still suck like Dracula. Sip this beat, let's back it up. And I don't care about critics, cause they talk too much, and I know that I gotta keep on grinding, finding myself. I ain't gonna stop until I know I had enough. Mama, I made it, I know that they see me, I'm popping these bottles just like I'm a genie. I'm glad that you made me get all in my DNA. I'm about my chips like I'm working for Frito-Lay. And bet it bag on myself. I don't do this for my health. Every thread is a champion. Got the title, need a belt. I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Once I do it big, what's to follow, it's a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Oh yeah. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. Gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat.
Still young spits, but you call me young boss. Eating real good, so a man's gon' floss. Got my weight up in my view real posh. You a frisbee man, so that mean you get tossed. Bought a new crib, still EO in the back. Numbers ran up, had to spit it with the chaps. Realest in the city, in my record, a fact. But your man's only chat when he do it in the raps. Like, spot go lost and don't really care what it cost them. You don't wanna cost them. My lifestyle awesome, couldn't decide if my gal wanted to, so I bought them. Don't run track, but I run up a check. Run, do it real big, gotta one up the next. Point to the sky with the one up, I'm blessed. I'm young, rich and black, so you know I'm a threat.
Welcome in to Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Shawn Kane, joined by PSU Dylan, the Instagram famous. No Cory Lestochi today. He is out sick. Today, we do have a lot of news, though. Tom Allen is reportedly about to be hired by Penn State. Penn State media day for the Peach Bowl just happened on Saturday or Sunday. Signing day is tomorrow. And we do have some fan questions. So we have a lot to get into. We're going to talk about every recruit in the class, and really happy to have PSU Dylan on with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for hopping on with us, Dylan. We needed you today because Cory had the audacity to go and get sick on us on a big day. But how's everything going with you?
I can't complain. Home for break now. Finals are all wrapped up, so I'm on a little bit of relaxation time, so can't complain.
Yeah, it was, I loved college, but at the end of every semester, I was like, why do I like this so much? So it's definitely a good time to be out. You have Christmas time coming up. And how long are you guys out? How long are you guys out for?
About 3 weeks. I think our first day of classes next semester is January 8th, so we got a good amount of time, plenty of time to relax.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, we're here to talk about Penn State football, so let's get right into it. Tom Allen, former Indiana head coach, is reportedly the next defensive coordinator at Penn State. This was a move that, I'm not going to say it was totally unexpected. Tom Allen's a guy that Cory and I had spoken about as a possibility. But, it was just kind of like, oh, wow, okay, we're doing this Tom Allen thing. So what were your impressions of the hire, Dylan?
Yeah, when I think it was Pete Thamel that broke the news that they were expected to hire him, it was very random. There wasn't any, I think this was the biggest, coordinator search that Franklin, he just did a really good job of keeping it under wraps. There was nothing leaking out about this. I heard Jeff Collins was involved too, but that was, I guess it didn't come to fruition. Allen was the guy that I mentioned right at the beginning, that's got to be your first phone call, but I didn't think it actually come to fruition. I think it's an awesome hire. Anytime you can get a former head coach and one that was successful at times on your staff to work under another head coach, I think that's a really big advantage. That's someone you can go to for any type of, if you need information about anything or a second thought, a second opinion on anything. That's a way you can use him. And then he has those really strong recruiting ties in Florida, which is a spot Penn State already has some ties to as well. So I think him with Jaywan Sider and a couple of those other guys could really get some work done on the trail in Florida on top of that. So I'm excited.
Yeah. You covered a lot there with the style is a fit with the talent we have. We recruited, and when we get into these recruits, you're going to see we recruited guys to fit into Manny Diaz style defense, and that's the kind of defense that Tom Allen likes to run. He likes to blitz as well. He likes to get after the quarterback. He, like you mentioned, he has experience recruiting in Florida. He's obviously experienced recruiting in the Midwest, so he's familiar with the recruiting area. He knows the Big Ten. He has studied Michigan. He has studied Ohio State. He's been in the Big Ten East, so he is very familiar with the teams Penn State will be playing. Not on a yearly basis anymore, but on a semi-yearly basis. So I like the hire. I think it's a good hire. When we talked about it on the pod, I wasn't jumping up and down demanding we hire Tom Allen, but I said I think I'd be happy with this, and overall I am. I think it's a good hire, and I think he's going to be a fit in the room too, in the coach's room, and I think that's something that Franklin really wanted from both of these coordinators, was guys that are going to fit the culture. Because from what Franklin has insinuated and what reporters have said, it doesn't seem like Mike Yurcich was ever a fit in Penn State's coach's room from a personality perspective.
Yeah, when it comes to, I think, finding the right personality fit, I've never had a doubt with Franklin. I mean, he's a psychology major. He's a personality guy. Like, that's his thing, you know? So from a personality fit, I've never worried about like him going out and finding someone that would fit in within the program.
Yeah, and you kind of contrast that with Yursich. Yursich was really he was kind of an anomaly with not being able to fit into what they did, and I think that's part of why he doesn't have a job right now. Part of it, maybe not the whole thing, but I think that's part of it, and I think it's probably the reason he was fired mid-season. So yeah, Tom Allen, I think we're both very good with it. I know Cory is good with it as well. He loves Tom Allen as a person. As do I. I think he's gonna be a good continuation of what Manny has brought here. And obviously, what was brought up as well is who wasn't hired. And the first guy on that list was Anthony Poindexter. And it appears that Franklin prioritized being a guy who's called plays before and been a head coach before. It seems like he prioritized that over what Anthony Poindexter would bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, and Dex is still on the coaching staff. That's what people seem to be forgetting. Like, it's like we had to choose one or the other. They have both right now. I feel like if he did have an opportunity to go somewhere and be a head coach elsewhere, Penn State would also probably be in position to, give him a raise and keep him around at least for another year or two. So I don't think it had to be one or the other. Like, they have both, and we'll see how it goes, because he might still have co-DC title. I think he'll still be involved with to a pretty big extent with the defense. So
no question, I think he has to be. And do you think this was Franklin's plan A? Do you think Tom Allen was?
I don't know if he had one name personally. Like I said, it was like under wraps. I couldn't get much on it, but I don't know if he had one particular name that was plan A. But I think if you were to tier this out with the guys they were looking into, I would say Tom Allen was probably in that first tier of names that they were looking at.
Fair enough. I kind of think very similar. Yeah, we just got a fan question from Eli about what kind of schemes we're going to see with the new coordinators. Dylan, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll go with Tom Allen. He runs a 4-2-5 more than anything else. So the main difference, if that does carry over to Penn State, is you'll see 2 linebackers on the field instead of 3. What that means for particular guys on the roster, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they'll hash all of that out. And I'm sure they'll still run 4-3 as well, but I think we will see some 4-2-5. He likes to blitz the linebackers a lot, which is something Manny didn't do quite as much as probably Tom Allen will. So I think we could see a guy like Abdul Carter take a heavier role in the blitzing next year, in particular, getting after the quarterback. He also has, I'm blanking on the name right now, but he has like a hybrid safety linebacker role that plays in his defense, something that a guy like KJ Winston, Dakar Nelson, like a bigger safety, would be down around the line of scrimmage in the box more often than usual.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to wonder too, does this appeal to a guy like Daquan Hardy possibly coming back? I would love to have Daquan Hardy back. I think he's the perfect nickel cornerback. So it seems like he'd be a fit there. And then Kodal Nicky, it's going to be one of the things that he utilized a lot was 2 quarterbacks. And it was, and we're going to get into what he said at Media Day. He described his offense as a blizzard from Dairy Queen. So there's the base, and then you put in Oreos or Reese's or whatever. And there's a lot that he does. He kind of describes his offense as attacking, and he had 2 backs last year go for over 1,000 yards. So they're going to prioritize the run game, and they're going to get their athletes in space and let them cook a little bit. So, and I think that's part of the, that's what we were missing a lot this year. So I think that's going to be a big change from this past year. And I totally agree with you with the Tom Allen point. But yeah, so I think we could get right into media day if you're good with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So media day was good. It's there was a lot of good information. Uh, I think Curtis Jacobs, I believe it was Curtis Jacobs, kind of had the quote of media day, and he said captain's play, referring to the bowl game. So Olu seems to be back. I don't think he officially said for the bowl game, not next year. Olu seems to be playing in the bowl game, which is obviously great news. Curtis Jacobs, Caden Wallace, Tyler Warren, Theo Johnson, who I already said he's in. They're all going to play in the bowl game. Notably, Kalen King and Johnny Dixon were both not at media day, and they both didn't practice. So maybe that's an indication they aren't playing, but they haven't said anything yet. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from media day. Also, Shawn Allen said he's coming back next year for anybody who was nervous about that.
Yeah, Olu should be playing, I believe, limited reps. He'll be on a pitch count for the game. And outside of Johnny Dixon and then Chop, I think Kalen will probably be the only other opt-out, which unfortunately is 2 in 1 position room at corner with Johnny and Kalen. But it will be interesting to see some of those young guys, see what they can do with the opportunity. Cam Miller, Zion Tracy. I think Zion Tracy is a name that a lot of people have not paid enough attention to. I think he's kind of penciled in to be a starter next year, even with a possible portal addition. Excuse me. That's a guy that I know the staff was confident if someone were to go down, God forbid, with an injury this year, they would have been comfortable putting him in there and letting him get a lot more run this year. So he was further along than a lot of people would have thought this year. So I think that'll be a future star contributor, something like that on this defense next year.
Yeah, Tracy. I think he made a few big plays on special teams this year, so he's played. He just and I believe he burnt his red shirt. I don't know that for sure, but I believe he did. So he's been there, but we just haven't seen a ton of him yet. And I agree with you. I thought last year when we kind of took a flyer on him a little bit. I know he really performed well at a camp, and Penn State liked him enough that they offered him a scholarship. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he's gonna be a player. I think Johnny Dixon and Kalen King should play, and not just because I'm a Penn State fan, and I just think it could really help their stock to play against a team that has a good passing attack. And Kalen King and Johnny Dixon really didn't get the chance to play too many teams with good passing attacks. They played Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan threw the ball like 8 or 9 times, and they played Ohio State. And let's be real, Kalen King did not play well that day. So I just think they would have had an opportunity to build their stock if they decided to play. But
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good opportunity for someone like them, but it is also, like, the way I look at it, everyone has their own situation and stuff going on around them. I don't know anything about either of them, but I've never taken those decisions like personally. I know that's not what you're saying, but a lot of people do get genuinely upset about people opting out. I mean, you just never know what these guys have going on around them, or if they just have a nagging injury, maybe anything going on like that. But I mean, they'll be okay without him, but I definitely would have liked to see both those guys play.
yeah, 100%. Like Chop, I thought it made a lot of sense for him not to play, because from what it looked like, he had a concussion against Ohio State, and you do not want 2 concussions within a couple months of each other. It's just very, very bad for your stock, and he's going to be a top 10 pick. I don't think he has anything left to prove. But just from a football standpoint, I just thought that King and Dixon had an opportunity to put more on film, but and who knows, maybe they play. No, nobody really knows. Maybe I know there's it's flu season. There's stuff going all around, especially a college campus. So you never know what the problem was. Yeah, and then Kodal Nicky, I mean, he was electric. So like I said, described his offense as like a Dairy Queen blizzard. Had a funny story about about being a quote unquote lifelong Penn State fan. I guess he played hockey growing up, and they I think his mom got him a hockey helmet, and it was white with a blue stripe down the middle. And he said him and his brothers used to like run into trees head first with it and stuff. So it was a funny story. And he definitely seemed to win the press conference. What does that mean? Nothing. I mean, there have been so many coaches that they said, "Oh, this guy won the press conference," and then doesn't matter. He sucks. And I'm not saying he's gonna suck, but and then there have been so many coaches that people were like, he didn't win the press conference, and they ended up being great coaches. So it doesn't really mean anything. But I think his personality is gonna vibe well with the staff, and he's gonna be a good culture fit for them.
Yeah, I think you can take away the personality thing with him like fitting right in with the staff, and also like his confidence and like the level of comfortability. I don't know the word for that, but he just seemed really comfortable already in the blue and white. Like it seems like it feels like it's a good fit. So I'm definitely excited to see what he can come up with next year for the offense.
Yeah, me too. And like one of the things that when Yurcich got fired, I would say to Cory that I was looking for in the new offensive coordinator was somebody who could give Drew Aller and Nick Singleton a swagger, because it just seemed like that there was no swagger to the offense this year. Like there was no. It just seemed like they not going through the motions, but there was just no. It just seemed lifeless a lot, and I think Kotelnicki at the very least is going to be able to do that. Kind of like what Joe Moorhead did in 2016 and 17 with his personality. I see a lot of Jomo and Kotelnicki as far as personalities go.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that, the confidence and swagger, I think can be stringing together plays and getting a good flow going with the offense, which is something Yurcich struggled quite a bit with this season. Yep. It was just really spotty and patchy, and they just couldn't string any big plays together. I mean, they couldn't get one big play to begin with in most of the games. So I definitely think Kotelnicki will help us in that department for sure.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of, like you said, leaning into what works. There'd be a lot of, like, I always think back to the Michigan game. Early in the game, we go across the middle to the tight end, and we hit Warren for like a 20-yard gain. And then we just stopped doing that. And it was like, no, that's it. Like, that's what we do well. And there was so much of just going away from things we did well. And then we would just run the same 3 plays to the flat over and over again. And it was like, no, like we're not doing anything. So I think that's going to be a big difference. I hope it's going to be a big difference in what Kotelnicki brings and than what Yurcich brought. And God, we already saw it in the Michigan State game. Like there was a huge difference in play calling from what we saw earlier in the year. Like you think about Sider and Howell and them calling outside zone and wide zone. And I knew that a lot of the stuff that they ran for the blog, he pointed this out, was stuff that was run at Oklahoma State. Like it was Yurcich's stuff, but he just never called it. It was just puzzling to me.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of zone runs to begin with this year. There wasn't a lot of getting Nick Singleton in space. There wasn't a lot of Amari Evans to begin with, which we already both feel pretty hurt about that one because that's our guy. But I don't know. I genuinely don't know what Yurcich was thinking in some of those games. But I mean, we're moving on, so it's okay.
We're on to Cincinnati, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Ole Miss, but yeah, but yeah, that's really what I got out of media day. Franklin also said he looked like shit. I thought that was funny. But yeah, all right. So if you want, I think we're ready to get into recruits now.
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So this is the recruiting show. And signing day is tomorrow. Early signing day is tomorrow. Official signing day is in February. And Penn State seems to have what's the complete class. There's no drama tomorrow for Penn State. No expected drama for Penn State tomorrow. It seems like our guys are pretty locked in. Like last year, Conrad Hussey, I know decommitted, I believe, the night before early signing day. None of that is expected tomorrow, so I feel pretty good about this class, Dylan. It's top 15 right now, number 14 according to 24/7 Sports, and yeah, I gotta say, there's a lot here that I like.
Yeah, it's a very complete class, and I know people like drama, but not all drama is good to begin with. So I don't think we'll see any tomorrow. I think it's 24 commits. I think they're all going to sign tomorrow, like early as well. So they don't want to drag it on any longer. Sorry, not tomorrow, Wednesday. The week's going faster than I can handle apparently. But yeah, it's not going to be too much going on. Just guys signing, and I don't think they'll flip anyone either. Not on Wednesday, but maybe by February they'll have a couple new names that they'll be working on.
Yeah, and that tends to be what happens. A couple of years ago, Venga Aone didn't flip. He just somebody we got in with late. Last year was Chimdi Ono. So yeah, you always have that, and I'm sure there'll be guys that Franklin is trying to get in late, some late bloomers, if you will. But we have a lot of guys to get into, so let's just do it. Let's start right at the top. Luke Reynolds. I mean, the guy, he really seems Mike Gesicki-like to me. Like, just his athleticism, his willingness to be a receiver. He's got a... Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think the guy I want to start with is Luke Reynolds. Very Mike Gesicki-like. Great receiver. You just see the athleticism jump off the screen at you when you watch him. And he's got the traits to develop into being a good blocker. Didn't do a ton of it in high school, but I really, really like this kid's game. And there's a reason he's a 5-star. Kudos to the staff for getting after him early.
Yeah, when he committed, he was like an 86 on 24/7 Sports, which for those who don't know is like a middling 3-star. It's not even like a high 3-star. That's kind of right around that top 1,000, 800 to 1,000 guy. And he's right now top 30 on most recruiting sites. So that's pretty insane. He's the number 1 tight end, I believe, on 24/7. On at least one recruiting site, he's the number 1 tight end as well. So that was a great evaluation by the staff. I think he's a guy who Kotelnicki could have some fun with next year. With, like you said, his athleticism. He has some good speed for his size as well. He's almost 6'5". I think he's about 220 pounds. So I could definitely see the Gesicki comparison. He definitely needs to put a little bit of weight on, but until then, I think that's still a guy you can't really keep off the field in entirety. So maybe split him out wide, put him in the slot, and run seams with him. I think there's a lot of opportunity with him, so I'm definitely excited about him.
Do you think he could play next year?
I do. Even with the loaded tight end room, I think I don't know if that's a guy you can keep off the field.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and you think about the way him and Rapplier are going to complement each other too, because Rapplier is more of a not a total blocker, because he could catch the ball, but I just think they're going to complement each other extremely well.
Yeah, they're pretty hefty comparisons, but that's pretty much Freiermuth and Gesicki out there of in a clone form, I guess.
Yeah, because that last year when we were talking about last year's class, I was like, Rapplier is a lot like Freiermuth, just a complete tight end who was really ready out of the box. Now, we didn't really need him this year because we had so many good tight ends, but in 2018 we did need Freiermuth because we were, after Mike left, there wasn't a whole lot behind him. So yeah, and then we'll get into Quentin Martin. I really love his versatility. His skills as a receiver really jump out to me. And when I say receiver and new guy, Penn State fans' ears, their eyes are going to light up. He's a guy that I could see contributing next year because of his receiving skills. And Cory and I have talked about, and I don't think this will happen necessarily. Maybe he starts as a receiver. Maybe he starts his career as a receiver. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm sure that's at least going to help him maybe get some time next year, because he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, what the staff usually does with guys, especially on offense who have positional like versatility, they'll pretty much sit them down and ask them what they want to play first, and they'll give them that freshman year to kind of sort it out, feel it out. And I think with this one though, they might nudge him a little bit and say, "Hey, we could use some help at receiver. Might be able to get you on the field a little bit more." I think it is a real possibility he plays at least a portion of his snaps at receiver, and he's going to play snaps. That's another guy that they can't keep off the field. And if they just point to that running back room and say, you might be waiting a little bit behind that, do you want to like get some reps in practice at receiver, see how it feels? I mean, he's played receiver at Bell Vernon, so that's not his primary position, but he has some experience with it. So I definitely think it's a possibility, and that's another guy that I'm really excited to see in the Kotelnicki offense.
Yeah, this guy seems like a great fit in that offense. Just like you said, versatility, getting guys in a position to succeed. And if you put this guy in a position to succeed, he's gonna go off. So really, I was super stoked when we got him last year. Not last year, earlier this year. Next guy, the QB, Ethan Grunkmeyer. I really, he's a Brad Mandler disciple, who also worked with Drew Aller, another Ohio kid. Penn State, another guy we got on kind of early, before he blew up, and then you just saw him gradually shoot up the recruiting, rankings, and his ability to, and this is something I saw with Drew too in high school, keeping his eyes downfield, comfortable. I think he's actually maybe even a little more comfortable running with the ball than Drew was in high school. So he throws a pretty pass, just seemed to improve every single year. I think this guy is, and I want to get your take on this. I think he has a chance to be the backup as soon as next year.
I think there's a possibility. He does need to add a little bit of weight. He's about 200 right now at most. But I mean that sounds like a pretty heavy quarterback, but he's 6'2.5", almost 6'3" now. So he needs to fill out his frame a little bit, but he definitely has the skills to come in and compete right away, at least for that backup job. He's definitely a little more mobile than Drew. He's a little bit smaller too, so that kind of plays hand in hand. But yeah, that's another quarterback I'm really excited about. When you start stacking quarterback prospects like that, that's definitely a recipe for success. So
yeah, and that's going to be the one thing that I'm going to miss from Mike Yurcich, because he could recruit the quarterback position. There's no question about that. And also some news from Media Day. The quarterback coach, we really aren't going to have one. It's going to be a combination of Danny O'Brien, Andy Kotelnicki, and James Franklin. So I think Kotelnicki framed it as they're taking an NFL approach to the quarterback room. So just something that I never really saw before. And reading between the lines, I would think Danny O'Brien will probably be the guy who works the most with them.
Yeah, I mean, he worked with the quarterbacks this year as well. I think
Right.
he'll definitely have his hand in there. He's a rising star in the coaching world, maybe not on a coordinator level yet, but he's definitely a really young, like, impressive mind. He has the football experience playing football. He played at Wisconsin, didn't he?
I think he played at Maryland.
Maryland, and he coached at Wisconsin.
I think that's what happened. He may have transferred.
He was at Wisconsin doing something there.
Yeah, he was a Badger at some point.
But he has experience in the Big Ten as well, so definitely a rising name in the coaching world. So
yeah, no doubt. And James Franklin loves him. So all right, next guy, my personal favorite in this recruiting class, Liam Andrews. This dude's a baller. When I watch his highlights, he could play both sides of the ball at a very, very high level. I think he could be a great offensive lineman, but Penn State's going to at least start him on the defensive line. And it just, the way he plays, there's a nastiness to him that just drips off the screen. I love this kid. I think he's going to be awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites in the class as well. He did start out the process when he was beginning to be heavily recruited as an offensive lineman, and he kind of figured out that he liked defense better. And I believe Wisconsin it's a heavy Wisconsin themed podcast apparently.
Yeah,
They were
a
like
lot of
the
guys from
first,
there.
yeah, they were the first to like really jump on him as a defensive lineman. So he was trending that way a little bit. He was trending Florida. Penn State faded, and then like all of a sudden they kind of emerged after, I think it was a junior day visit or something. But they got right back into it, and they emerged as one of the top schools, and eventually ended up landing him. I think South Carolina was in it late. It was all over the place, but Penn State ended up with their guy, and I think he could be a contributor on either side of the ball. It seems like he'll be a defensive tackle though, which I'm sure none of the viewers are upset about, bringing in a potentially elite defensive tackle. So he's got a 6'5" frame. If you can get him up to about 290, 300, and you can still move with that speed and agility, then that could be a potentially elite defensive lineman. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's pretty scary to think about. Putting that much weight on, and yeah, he's got stud written all over him. Next guy, the first commit in this class, Cooper Cousins. Just seems like the prototypical center. I see a lot of juice scruggs in this kid. Got that athleticism combined with the ability to just pop you in the mouth. I love having a center like that. I think center is such a undervalued position. Like everybody will talk about left tackle. Left tackle's one of the 5 most important positions in football, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But like having a center and having that guy in front of you that just is able to make the checks at the line and then leads the way. I mean, I think we got our guy. I think this guy's going to be a multi-year starter here.
Yeah, like you said, Juice Scruggs, but he's 6'6", 320. So Franklin's always talking about getting bigger on the lines. That's how you do it. He'll definitely start at center. I don't know if he'll stick there, but he definitely has the potential to. That seems like the most likely landing spot for him. Yeah, like you said as well, first to commit in the class. He's a leader. That's, again, the type of guy that you want in the center of your offensive line that's going to get out there and talk some crap, but also back it up. So I'm really excited for him as well. He should probably be a little higher in the rankings as well. I know he was slipping slowly a little bit, like guys moving above him that were getting bumped up, and he was just slowly slipping down. And I think a couple of those recruiting sites took note of that, and they bumped him back up. So I think he's a fringe top 100 guy. He's very athletic for his size. He can move. So that's another guy I could see contributing early as well. With that center position opening up next year, I know it's hard to get in early on the line, but with Hunter Norzad leaving, I think he could compete for that starting job. That's how polished he is right now. So that's definitely really exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, I just think that kid is going to, like you said, when you look for leadership ability in your center, and he's got that. He was the first guy in, and yeah, I think he's going to start for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Next guy I want to mention, John Mitchell, out of Florida. We're also going to talk about his teammate in a little bit. I just see that blend of athleticism and physicality that you'd love to have in a cornerback. I think in order to play corner in the Big Ten, you got to be physical, and that's what this kid's gonna. I think that's what this guy's gonna bring here. Good size. I loved his film, and then the way him and Belgrave Shorter just worked people in Florida. I mean, imagine being a high school quarterback having to go up against that guy.
I believe they also
against that defense.
They have a 2025 safety I think he's a top 100 kid overall, also in their secondary. So that's, yeah. Mandarin is loaded in their secondary for a high school team.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I really wanted his brother in the portal too. He ended up going to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So that sucked. And then there was I think there was a little bit of concern that, is John going to follow him? And nah, he never wavered. So he's coming here. He's expected to sign tomorrow. Another guy I want to talk about, and this is one of the most intriguing prospects to me, Garrett Sexton. He's still raw. He's obviously got to put on weight. He's only about 260. 24/7 Sports says 265, but a big kid, and I think he's got potential through the roof.
Yeah, I think he's a bit north of 270 now, so he is putting on weight. I mean, if he can get in there at 270 with his frame, they'll take care of the rest. But he's like you said, really raw. I think he just started at offensive tackle his junior year of high school, so he has a lot of technique to learn. But that's Troutwine's thing. Like he can get him right with the technique. I think he's 6'6.5", I believe, to be exact, but he's right around there, that 6'7" range. So if he can fill out and come along with the technique and footwork, then he could definitely be a starter down the line. I think he has a couple years to kind of sit in the system, like weight train, all that. But eventually down the line, he definitely has the look of a elite Big Ten offensive tackle.
Yeah, and I mean, Troutwine has the cachet now to say that. Like, he could say, look, I just coached a guy who's going to be a top 5 to 10 pick, and look at how Caden Wallace improved under me. Look at, I got you Scruggs drafted in the 2nd round. So he's got that cachet to be able to go in the living rooms now and say that.
Yeah, and Olu was a high 3-star on most recruiting sites out of high school.
Right. Yeah,
definitely
like,
adds to how impressive that was.
Yeah, like, people forget that too. Like, Olu was not, I don't want to say an afterthought, but like, no, like, he wasn't one of the crown jewels of his recruiting class. He just wasn't, but he just worked his tail off and was developed. And I mean, he was best offensive lineman I've seen in a long time at Penn State. So
yeah,
being able to go into living rooms now and say that, it's gonna be huge for Troutwine. Next guy is probably the most unknown, but talented. T.A. Cunningham has had a very interesting high school career, played at multiple schools. He moves really, really well for someone his size. I mean, he can move sideline to sideline, but there's still a lot of unknown. Like, he didn't play a ton of football in high school, if that makes sense for a guy that was recruited as heavily as he was.
Yeah, I mean, you know what everyone says: if you're gonna miss big or miss fast. So he's definitely falls into that big category. He's almost 6'7" himself. So, and I think they want to use him at D tackle. So that's another one that if you can fill out that frame to go along with that 6'6.5", that's a big guy in the middle. So he I would say in this class has the widest range from floor to ceiling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think if he hits, they'll hit really big with him. He definitely has a ton of potential. He's really twitchy for his size. He can move for his size. But again, like you said, he just hasn't played a ton of football. He had some unfortunate circumstances develop. But and again, that's not like, just to clarify, like character issues, anything like that. He's a great guy. I've talked to him a little bit. He's a really nice kid. So I think he'll fit in well at Penn State. And if he takes well to the football surrounded by nothing else around you and doesn't go insane, then he could develop into a really good D lineman.
Yeah. And like, you think about Deion Barnes, kind of a similar developing story to Troutwine. Every single defensive lineman this year got better from 2022. And even our best guys got better. So if Deion Barnes could, like, this seems like the type of guy that Deion Barnes can really take under his wing and mold and can make him into something really special. And if he could do that, that's going to speak volumes to recruits down the line. And I mean, I think Deion Barnes is a star. I think he's a stud in the make. I think he's going to be, he has potential to be a head coach someday if he wants that. And a guy like T.A. Cunningham could go a long way for him and for Penn State, certainly. Next guy we're going to talk about, Jalen Harvey. What a recruitment. He was supposed to go to USC, then he was supposed to go to Maryland, but really, I always felt like Penn State was going to end up with him. It was just weird the way it all went, and then, you know, what kind of got lost a little bit was this guy's a really good football player. Like, his quickness off the edge just jumps off the screen at you. And another guy that that Deion Barnes has brought in, and I think he could develop into something really, really special here.
Yeah, it's another really, really easy comparison to make because he came from the same high school, but Chop Robinson, they both have really good twitch. They're both a little bit undersized for a Big Ten defensive end. I mean, Chop was 6'3", Jalen's I think a hair over 6'2", but he's already about 250 pounds, so he's definitely filled out and ready to go if they need him early, which they won't. But he might be able to play early, come in and contribute a little bit next year, maybe a little bit like Jameel Lyons did this year. But he's another guy I'm really excited to see play.
Man, you brought up Jameel Lyons too, and I know he's not in this class, but that guy's gonna be he's gonna be a player. There's
a lot of young guys on this defense that I think are going to be absolute stars. KJ Winston. I mean, we could go on for probably 30 seconds just rattling off guys. But.
Oh, I think KJ Winston is a star. Like,
yeah,
I think he's him already. He showed me like it felt like he didn't have a bad moment all season. I mean, and how many guys that are getting their real start in football could you say that about? But yeah, speaking of safeties, next guy, Vabu Torre.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I pronounced his name correctly. Loves to hit. That was the first thing that really jumped off to me, that his physicality reminds me a little bit of Jalen Reed. I don't know if you get the same feel. I don't know if you have the same feel for that, but his physicality just really, really shows when you watch him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that comparison. I mean, physicality is definitely his number one trait. He has good speed to go with it. His size is not lacking. I believe he's about 6 foot, 6'1". I think he's actually playing in the U.S. Army Bowl right now. So that's another one. We got a lot of those not bowl game, but the Army Bowl and the other one is slipping my mind.
Under Armour.
Yeah, we got probably 6 or 8 guys in those bowls, so it's pretty exciting too.
Yeah. When you're watching those games and you keep saying, "Oh, that's a guy going to Penn State. Oh, that's a guy going to Penn State." Usually your program's doing pretty well. So, and that's kind of where we're at. We just had back-to-back 10-win seasons, so I think things are going pretty well. Not well enough, but pretty well.
They're in the right direction, I would say.
I'd say so too. It's you just want to get over the hump.
This is very random, but Dante Moore just committed to Oregon. It's very interesting.
I was going to, this is how college football is changing. I was going to say, we don't have to worry about him. No, we do. Yep, we do. Because
at least it's not Ohio State. I'm just like crossing off the list of every elite quarterback that commits to a school not named Ohio State. I really hope they just stick with we're very off topic here now, but I hope they just stick with Brown next year. Yeah.
Cory and I go off topic all the time. And then I really don't want him to go to Michigan either, because I mean, Michigan runs the conference now. As long as Harbaugh's there, although I think Harbaugh's days are numbered at Michigan. I think he's going to the NFL after this year.
Really?
I do. I think he's like, I think all that talk about an extension, I think Michigan would probably want to extend him, but I think he's gone.
It is interesting how much that's popped up as a rumor and it never got done to this point. So,
right. We'll see. I think it's because one side's leaking it, hoping that it happens. But that's just kind of my inference. Anyway, let's talk about Anthony Specca. So when I see him, I just kind of think throwback Big Ten linebacker, like kind of, and I don't mean that derisively or anything, like just really good in the box, physical, comes from a very, very decorated high school that's produced a lot of good prospects. And I really liked what I saw on tape from him.
Yeah, I mean, that's another guy like Cooper Cousins. He just committed so early in the class. I think he was one of the first 2 or 3 guys to commit. So just not really talked about enough in my opinion. But yeah, he'll be a box guy. I think he'll be another guy that could start a year or 2 at Penn State. So that's the main thing about this class. Everyone seems to have, with the exception of a few maybe, like it just seems like at their very worst, they'll be a starter for a year or like a contributor like they have now with the safeties, like 4 guys who get starting reps. Everyone in this class seems like they're going to make some sort of contribution.
And that's what you want, right? Like one of the things that really showed up the last 2 years is depth.
Mhm.
And it's depth that we haven't seen at Penn State probably since the mid-90s. So just a bunch of guys you could count on. I mean, there were years where you couldn't count on the starters. And those days for now are over. So that's definitely a big plus to have. Then I have Donovan Harbor. And I have one word to describe him, a unit. He was Corey Smith, who we're going to talk about. His teammate led the way for him. He already seems to have the size to play. I mean, he's already over 320 pounds, and I'm sure not all the weight's good, but that's okay. They could definitely work with that and turn some of that bad weight into good weight. And all I have is bad weight, so I'm not really one to talk. And he's one of those guys too. I think he's got the potential, he's got the body to really do something here.
Yeah, I think when he committed, he was around 340 or 350, so he has dropped some of that bad weight. Yeah, he's down around 320 right now. So that was the main I don't want to say concern, but that was the main thing with him that the staff was really looking for him to come in a little bit trimmed down so they could work with a little bit lighter Donovan Harbor. But he definitely does have a lot of good weight. He has a lot of strength you can see in his film. So yeah, he'll be a good guy on the interior for us for sure.
Yeah, and he's trending in the right direction. So let's talk about his teammate now, Corey Smith. Explosive runner. Like when I watch him, he's just one of those guys that it doesn't even look like he's running that fast until you watch the other guys, and they all look like they're walking compared to him. So, I mean, his speed just jumps off the screen at you. I believe he's 5'11", 170. So he's gonna have to put a little bit of weight on, not a ton, but he's gonna have to put some weight on, and then you just hope he can keep that speed with it.
Yeah, that's another guy that Kotelnicki can definitely play around with in his offensive, creative offensive schemes. Get that guy in open space, and he'll make a play for you. He has really good speed, like you said, really good vision, agility. That's another guy. Maybe if you're struggling a little bit in the slot, maybe you could throw him in the slot as a receiver. But obviously that's kind of desperation mode. But I just wanted to point out, I think he could play receiver. Like he has that level of athleticism and versatility. So,
how about that? So we have two guys that are running backs that could play receivers. So gonna be something for James Franklin, Marquise Hagans, and Andy Kotelnicki to think about for sure.
I think at the very least you could get them involved in the pass game as running backs on screens or at flat routes, anything like that. So
yeah, and that's another thing, like from this season, that Franklin would bring up a lot in press conferences. He would bring up that like Nick Singleton's had a good year as a receiver. Like people don't talk about that as much, and he did struggle as a running back at times, but that's part of Yursich. Utilize what he did improve on and get him in the open field. But like you said, we're on to Cincinnati, so we're gonna forget about that. So let's start talking about the receivers. Peter Gonzalez, I really like this kid. Has the size. He's almost 6'3", I believe. Not as highly rated, partly because he got hurt midway through his junior year, and I just think that hurt him in his rankings. But he had a very good senior year, and I think Franklin wanted to if I remember correctly, Franklin wanted to make sure that his speed still checked out over the summer. It did. And then he got what was called a committable offer, and he committed. So Pitt legacy guy too. So always nice to steal one from them.
Yeah, no, that's kind of similar to what we were talking about with Zion Tracy. He came in and really proved himself in a camp, and that's when they really decided to give him the green light. This is a guy I genuinely don't understand his ranking on. Maybe I'm looking through blue and white shades, but he's shade under 6'3", he's 200 pounds. He can move. He catches the ball well in traffic. He can move through traffic with the ball. He has great vision. he was productive this year coming off of his injury. I don't really get it, but the ranking doesn't matter as soon as you step onto a college football field. So, yeah, I definitely think that's another one that could maybe contribute early. I mean, we'll see how he develops at Penn State, but at some point he'll be a starter on this offense. I'm pretty confident in that.
Well, I think he's gonna be a starter. Wow. I can see it though. Like I said, I really, really like this kid, and I'm right there with you. I don't know. I guess it was due to injury, but don't other guys get hurt their junior year? I don't know why I don't get that. But like, ask Olu Fashanu how important high school recruiting rankings are. It's just in general, like, what's the difference between like the 205th guy in the country and the 230th guy? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's just funny the way it all shakes out, you know?
I think the rankings do matter, but I mean, they
do too.
absolutely matter if you look into the statistics, but only to an extent. Like, some people take them with a little too much weight attached to it, I guess. You need to take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, there's always outliers. There's going to be a 0-star or a 2-star like Justin Jefferson that gets drafted and ends up being a star in the NFL. And there's also going to be 5 stars that are bust. But I think with that argument, you can put it to bed pretty quickly if you just look at the stats. The percentages of guys that are 5, 4, 3 stars that get drafted, it kind of just goes from like 60% 5 stars to like 20% of 4 stars to, I think it's 5% of 3 stars or something. But it doesn't matter. That's a conversation for another time as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, obviously recruiting matters. Like, look at the teams that recruit the best: Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. Look at the teams that are always up there: Georgia, Ohio State, Bama. Yeah, I mean, they do matter, but you do have guys here and there that are exceptions to the rules. So,
yeah,
definitely a combination of both of those things. Tyzer Denmark, another kid that went to a couple different high schools, started at Roman Catholic, then he went to Imhotep for his senior year. I see this guy is kind of boomer bust in a way. His film is very impressive. He's a talented kid. Another kid that I thought could have been higher rated. Has a lot of offers. So, I mean, his talent is not a secret, but I think I could see him contribute, maybe not immediately, but I could see him as maybe a guy that we put in the slot.
Yeah, I mean, he has the speed. Speed is something that you don't keep off the field unless you're Mike Yurcich with Amari Evans. But he's if there was, I don't want to like raise any red flags, but if there was any name to keep an eye on with signing Wednesday, it would be Tyser, just because he's had some academic issues. But if anything were to happen, I think it'd just be pushed back to February and he'd sign with Penn State in the late signing day as well. But he is working through some academic things that could have a small chance of him not signing. But I think they'll get that one done as well. Like we said earlier, there shouldn't be much drama. But yeah, I think the easy comparison for this guy would be Jahan Dotson. Just his shiftiness, his ability to move around in his short area quickness. He's just really shifty. I could see a little bit of Jahan in him. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be Jahan Dotson, but that's his play style in my opinion.
Smooth route runner, just kind of makes everything look easy. That was, I mean, people will say Bobby Ingram. I've never seen a guy like John at Penn State. Like, just the guy that can make it look that easy. So if that's a similar thing that we're going to Tyser Denmark, look out. Another guy, Malachi Williams. So I think him and Jalen Harvey off the edge, like, they do so many similar things to each other. Like, the speed, the quickness off the edge, getting to the quarterback. Like, that's what Malachi Williams is going to bring to this. And just watching his highlights, it just looks like the guy's having fun out there, and nobody on the opposing side is.
Yeah, I mean, the only knack on him is his competition level. He didn't play great teams every week. I think he was at Monsignor Bonner, which is right outside Philly. It's like greater Philly area.
That's probably why the teams did not look happy.
Yeah, they have some good teams out there, but most of the teams that they played were below his caliber of talent. So, but he definitely looks really good on film. He has a bit of a larger frame than Jalen. I think he's 6'3", but his thing is length. Like he has super long limbs. So once he fills out, he might be able to hold a little bit more weight, maybe get up to close to 260, even though he's only 6'3" and change. But that's another one I'm really excited about. Like you said, he's really fast and twitchy. That's what you look for in an edge rusher in today's game. You know, you want to get off to the quarterback as quickly as possible, and Malachi Williams is someone that could help you do that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you don't have to look very far to see the impact of edge rushers. Just look at Penn State's 2023 team. Best defense. I think we had the best defense in the country this year. Where are you on that?
Probably agree. I mean, they were in the top tier for sure. I kind of comparing very closely with Michigan, Ohio State. You could put Alabama in there. It's probably a team or two slipping my mind, but they're absolutely in that number one tier. You can make an argument for a few of those teams, but as a Penn State fan, I'll go ahead and say we had the best defense in college football.
Yeah, granted, I'm probably putting the blue and white glasses on, but I think it was just watching the Michigan-Ohio State game. I was like, our defense was better than these two. And it just made it more painful. All right. Next guy, Egan Boyer. Another guy, great size, but raw. And this is very common with offensive line recruits. It is the toughest thing to recruit offensive linemen, especially tackles. So, because so many of these guys, they're not going to be ready the first year. So, how do you think he's going to translate over to Penn State?
Yeah, I think they went with similar molds for Boyer and then Garrett Sexton with their two tackle guys in the class. Both pretty raw, both very large human beings. They have huge frames, but they need to fill out a little bit. I think Egan is he might be, I think Sexton might have passed him with weight now. I think Sexton, like I said, about 270, maybe 275. Egan Boyer is, I think he's listed 6'7", but he's very close to 6'8". He's probably a hair off of 6'8". But he's only 260, I believe. So he does have a lot of weight to add. Hopefully you can get a little bit more on him before he gets here. But just like Sexton, I think he might need a year or two to develop. I don't think we'll see either of them burn red shirts or anything like that next year. But I think they hit on at least one of those guys. They both have a ton of potential, and I'd be pretty surprised if neither of them pan out to be good tackles.
Yeah. And are these two guys, are they coming in early?
I'm actually not sure. I need to look into who's enrolling early. I do know they have about half the class coming in early. It's, I believe, the largest early enrollee group that Franklin has had at Penn State, but I need to look into the names in particular.
Yeah, it's always good, especially linemen, to get them in early, get them in the strength program early, get them in here for the winter. But not necessary either, but just nice to have.
Yep.
Another guy, DeAndre Cook. He's got a really good blend of speed and size. He's already 260. And is this a guy we're going to be playing at tackle or at end?
Yep, him and Xavier Gilliam are both like right in between as far as their height and weight, but they'll both eventually be D tackles here. I guess they're both pretty similar frames as well. We'll talk about Gilliam then, but they're both right around that 6'3", 260 range. I think Cook's 6'4", but they could both be contributors eventually at D tackle.
Yeah, let's get right into Gilliam. Covers ground really quickly for a big guy. And he impressed, watching his highlights, he impressed me in stopping the run as well as getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, I would put him second on my list as far as most underrated guys in this class. Second or third. Gonzalez is in that 2 or 3 range too, but we're about to get to 1. So,
oh boy,
I think you know who I'm leaning towards, but we'll see soon.
All right, let's. I'll do my guess. Belgrave Shorter. Yep, I figured you were gonna say that. Man, the guy's a hell of a high school football player, wasn't he? And
yeah.
I mean, offense as well as defense. Like, great two-way player. You could make an argument that in high school he was just as good as John Mitchell, if not even better. So, why do you think he got Why do you think his ranking's so low? I just don't get it.
That's another one I don't have an explanation for it. I mean, if you compare them, they're almost clones of each other. They're the same height and weight pretty
Yeah.
much. I mean, they're teammates. They both made a ton of plays this year. They played really well off each other, like you said. I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it, but they can both play right away at Penn State. I think they're both really talented guys. I'm excited about that duo.
Yeah, and it's not like Mitchell, like you said, and I think Mitchell's a great prospect. It's not like he's a way better prospect than Belgrave Shorter, like when you watch both of them play and he kind of overshadows him. I didn't see that at all. I don't know, but I'm
No.
not paid to evaluate recruits, I guess.
I think Belgrave Shorter is a top 150 guy, top 200 guy. I mean, if I was giving him a ranking without blue and white glasses, like he's a really good prospect. That's a 4-star guy. Like I don't know what they're looking at, but and it's like none of the recruiting sites have bumped his rating up either. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting on it, but hey, like we said, that's not a problem. Once they get here, they'll ball out. So
Yep, and there are exceptions to the rule every year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll stick to the secondary. We'll talk about DeJuan Lane. So when I watch this kid play, he almost looks like a defensive end on the field. He's 6'3", he's almost 200 pounds, and high school defensive end. I mean, like he's built, like he's very tall. I could even see him maybe playing linebacker in college if we needed to. But he's very good at pass coverage too.
Yeah, that's another potential fit down the line for that hybrid position that Tom Allen likes to run in his defense with the safety linebacker hybrid. I mean, there's been a little bit of talk about Lane moving down to linebacker eventually. I mean, maybe he doesn't have to, and he can just play right in the middle at that hybrid position. So I'm really excited about him. That's another one that doesn't play the best competition. He just runs through everyone. But that's what you'd expect from a prospect of his caliber. So, I mean, it's like Michigan with their easy schedule in the beginning of the year. You don't really know what you're going to get, but they're doing what they should against the easy competition. So, then definitely another one I'm really excited to get into State College.
Yeah, and a lot of the small school guys, you just don't know. You don't know until they get here. Yeah. All right, let's run out of guys now. Let's get to Kenny Wosley. His physicality as a corner really, really showed out to me. Another Imhotep guy, teammates with Tysier Denmark. They just won the state championship. Like I said, I love his physicality and just the way he gets after the ball carriers.
Yeah, I mean, he's 5'11", 180, so he's not like the biggest guy in the world, but he definitely gets after it. He loves to make a good hit. And if Penn State is ever in a pinch and they need a kicker, he can hopefully step in and get that done for them. He kicked a 30-yard field goal in their state championship game, and it would have been good from quite a bit longer. So I saw that on my Twitter feed. I saw a highlight of our defensive back commit kicking a field goal, and I thought it was fake, just like scrolling and seeing the title, but I looked and it was him and he drilled it. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow. I did not know that. That is really good. That is really good information. That's so funny.
I think he kicked for them all year. I'd have to look into that, but that wasn't his first kick. You could tell. So that was, definitely pretty cool.
Yeah. Like 30 in high school is like 50 in the NFL. Like you have to be like, they don't just trot out their kickers, anybody to kick those. Speaking of kickers, I'd be remiss to not mention Penn State just picked up a transfer kicker from Tulsa, Chase Meyer. He had very good stats this year. I believe off the top of my head, he was 18 to 20.
17.
Yep. Almost there. And he only missed one extra point this year. So definitely a good addition. And him, along with Kenneth Wosley, will be giving Sanders a haystack competition. So that should be a tense battle. Cory Jackson. I believe we still have a couple others. Cory Jackson. When I watched him, like he hits very, 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 very hard. And the way he's able to cover ground, relatively quickly, he has better lateral movement than I expected.
Mhm.
And I saw a little bit of Kobe King in him.
Yeah, he's like you said, Kobe King. He's probably another box guy along with Specco for Penn State. Maybe they could play him at will. I mean, he has the frame for it if he does fill out a little bit. I believe he's about 6'2". So, but he was injured, I'm pretty sure, for the entirety of his senior year. So he was sidelined. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see if he made any progress or anything. So that's definitely a guy that's still up in the air, to be determined as to how much he could contribute. But I wouldn't expect him to be a name to know next year or anything. I mean, he still needs to rehab from that injury. I think it was an ACL, which is never fun. But I mean, it's not like it's 1990 anymore. You can come back from an ACL injury and be fine. But I think he'll be on the back burner for a bit, but he'll be there working. So we'll see if he can come back from that and eventually contribute.
Yep. And speaking of a guy who was injured this year, Josiah Brown, out of New York, one of the fastest guys in the class. And I felt like last season we really needed some speed at receiver. Omari Evans was there, but we just didn't play him. I digress. Josiah Brown, he is that speed guy. Another guy that I think is a little underrated, probably because he got hurt. But really like this kid. I think he's gonna be not an immediate impact guy because he's still rehabbing an injury. But he's gonna play. I could see him playing after next year.
Yeah, I think it was all three for him: ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So he's got some time to work on that. He did play some of this year. I want to say the majority of it. But I could be wrong on that. He showed what he can do though when he was healthy. He's, like you said, a super fast guy. He's great in space. Probably a slot guy at Penn State. It's another one that kind of plays with Jahan Dawson's play style, similar to Tyseer Denmark. I would say Tyseer probably has better short area quickness, and Josiah Brown is better with long strides. Like, he ran track also. So like you said, he could definitely contribute, but probably not next year, coming off a pretty brutal injury. But he could be a pretty fun guy to watch in a couple years.
Got an ACL, MCL, meniscus. Whew.
Not fun.
No. Gosh. All right, so we are down to the last guy, last but not least, Mr. Caleb Brewer. Great name, first of all. Played a few different positions in high school, played on the defensive line, I believe he played tight end as well. And he's going to be, according to 24/7 Sports, he's going to be playing offensive tackle. So what do you, I mean, the first thing that jumps out to me is his versatility. What do you like about Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, anytime you see a jumbo athlete that's playing multiple positions like that, similar to Liam Andrews, they're going to have that athleticism. I mean, he's playing tight end at like 270, 280 pounds. So he can move for his size. You said offensive tackle. I do think, even though he's listed as a tackle, he'll be an interior lineman for Penn State, whether that's offense or defense. Still to be determined, but he should be starting out at guard. I personally would really like to see him at D tackle. I think that's where he could really excel. But again, similar to Liam Andrews, I think he could be good on either side of the ball. So I guess we'll see.
Very good. All right, so that is everybody. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Dylan.
Uh-oh.
Who will be the best player in this class?
Are we talking down the line when they get to the NFL draft?
Yep, down the line.
Let me think for 1 minute. This seems cliche because you called him your favorite player, but Liam Andrews, I could definitely see ending up super high draft pick and Penn State legend. So we'll go with Liam.
Penn State legend. I'm good with that because he's my pick too. Last year I said Tony Rojas, and I feel good about that pick. I still feel good after 1 year that Tony Rojas is going to be the best player in the class. And I feel good about Liam Andrews. But there's just a bunch of guys I feel really good about. Like I said, I think Gronk is going to be the starting quarterback at some point here. And I didn't really say that, and no disrespect to him, I didn't say that about Jackson Smolik. I mean, and like I said, he may end up being the starter down the line. But like Grunkmeyer, I just really like this kid, and
He has the traits.
he does, and I could really see a world. And who knows with the transfer portal and everything, who the guy's going to be in 2025. But I could really see him taking the reins from Drew. And yeah. So outside of Liam Andrews, who's going to be the best player in the class?
He's the highest rated for a reason. I'll go with Luke Reynolds.
Luke Reynolds.
I mean, he's a 5-star on a couple sites. I think that his film backs it up, his productivity backs it up, and like I said earlier, he'll be a guy that I think plays from day one. So he'll have plenty of opportunity to prove himself.
Yeah. All right. And outside of Reynolds, because you did mention him, who will be the early contributors next year?
Early contributors. I think Antoine Belgrave Shorter and John Mitchell, that duo from Mandarin, I think they'll both play early. I think for a little bit. I mean, one of their wide receivers, I have a feeling that Tyseer could end up maybe playing a little bit earlier than a lot of people thought. There's always one or two names that kind of pop out of nowhere in those spring practice reports, like, hey, this guy's running with the ones, he's running with the twos.
Yep.
And like Abdul Carter, they actually kept him under wraps, and then he ended up starting, I think, in that Purdue game. He didn't start, but he came in early, and then we saw like 2 snaps and he got ejected. But I mean, there's some of these guys just pop out of nowhere. I think Tyseer could be possibly in that mold.
I could see that because, yeah, like Abdul wasn't like Micah coming in where everybody knew Micah's going to play right away. Like, But yeah, we actually have a fan question about Mr. Grunk. Do you guys think Grunk has a legit shot of getting the backup role since he's enrolling early? And I think we kind of answered that. Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly in contention. And if he gets it, it doesn't mean Bo won't play. Like, I think watching Kotelnicki's offense, they're going to find ways to get Bo involved because he is a tremendous athlete. But yeah, I think Grunk definitely has a chance to be the backup next year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're referring to Bo, that's a very different style of quarterback. Even from Grunkemeyer, I'd say he's closer to Drew Aller's play style than Bo. So Bo would still be able to find the field, even as a technical third string, I guess, if we were to play out that situation. But yeah, I would say it's probably more likely that he lands as the second string than third or fourth next year.
Maybe Bo could be the starting lion, a la Tommy Stevens.
The position's always up for grabs, right? Come back into the Kotelnicki offense.
All right. This is from Einstein von Braun. I'm gonna do the Mr. Not quite like Cory does. Mr. Okay. All right. Would you rather have the big name in the portal who may have underperformed at their previous school but has major potential, or the smaller school kid who doesn't have the name recognition and succeeded against lesser competition, but has shown he wants to work and compete?
It's really a case by case basis. I mean, it depends how small of a school you're talking about. I mean, there's still a huge jump between FCS and maybe a lower level FBS school, but if you can find like a combination of that, like someone who has a ton of potential, they have at least some level of productivity. That's what I know Penn State in particular looks for, at least a little bit of productivity, like maybe Malik McLean. If you had to pick one or the other straight up, I'd probably go with the smaller school kid. Me personally, who has the stats to back it up, I would probably lean that way. I'm envisioning a guy like Colin Lacey in the portal this year. I think South Alabama was the school, the receiver. I mean, he was still rated as the number one receiver in the portal by On3. One of those recruiting sites had him as the number one receiver, despite being from South Alabama. I don't think the school matters too much. I mean, you got to take that into account, but that's probably the way I would lean.
I think it kind of depends on the position, because receiver, you could find good receivers pretty much anywhere. Guys that, like, I'm not saying you could find Randy Moss anywhere, But like you could find good receivers, you could find good athletes pretty much anywhere, and they land at a smaller school for one reason or another. It could have been that they went to a small high school that didn't really give them a chance to um, send film to the bigger Big Ten, SEC schools, things like that. Could be that they just didn't go to camps, and then in today's day and age, you really get hurt by not camping, and so there are a million reasons why that they receivers, cornerbacks kind of fall through the cracks. I think linemen are a little different. Like a lot of the time, linemen, I really, I think you got to be careful with recruiting smaller school linemen because it's just a completely different game up front when you get to the Big Ten than it is in a smaller school, even the MAC conference. Like you're just not going against the same competition. It could be a complete culture shock. So
Alan Heron will be a very good case study for this topic.
He will, and he's gonna have a chance to come in and compete. But like we saw Eric Wilson, and it didn't necessarily work out that great with Eric Wilson, and doesn't mean that it's not going to work out for Mr. Heron, but it's gotta. That's kind of how I would approach it. So to answer your question, just look for the most talented guy. And I know that's easier said than done, but you could find real talent at smaller schools, and you could find some not great talent, and you could also find some guys at bigger schools who may have more recognition that just kind of flamed out for one reason or another, and you can make them into something. So it's hard. It's hard to say. Speaking of the portal, we would be remiss if we went through this whole episode and didn't mention one Julian Fleming.
Mhm.
So Julian Fleming has been crystal ball to Penn State. Dylan, is Julian Fleming coming to Penn State finally?
Short answer, I think so. But I mean, I've never seen a player yet to wear Penn State threads garner this much attention from this fan base. Like even throughout his years playing at Ohio State, I still had the occasional, is Julian Fleming going to transfer here? DM, like, and obviously when he went in the portal, everyone was freaking out, and then he word got out he visited, and then the predictions have started to roll in. I think this thing's wrapped up. His birthday is tomorrow, so I don't know anything, but that could be a potential announcement date. I would assume this is wrapped up before Christmas, so give it a week at most, in my opinion. But again, I don't have anything like concrete on this, but I do believe it is wrapped up. So
Birthday's tomorrow. That's some big J journalism right there, Dylan. Yeah. From what it seems like, and again, I have no insider knowledge. I think he comes here. Just reading the crystal balls. It was a Penn State Ohio State battle for him. Unfortunately, went to Ohio State. Has had a good career at Ohio State. He was just behind some awesome receivers like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr. And yeah, it could be tough to find the field at Ohio State when you're behind those guys. But he is better than anybody we have right now.
I mean, he did start multiple years for the best receiver room in America. I think I can say that without any disagreement. They have the best receiver room in America almost every year. And when he can start multiple years in there, I think you would take the opportunity to take that guy. I was a little bit against it when he got in the portal. I had some people texting me, is Penn State going to look into him? Are they going to look after him? And my answer originally was, I don't think so. But I mean, they started pursuing him. He took the visit, and then I kind of like looked into it a little more. I'm like, yeah, I might just be butthurt about him not coming. Yeah, he would be a good addition. I think he'd probably start next year. He would start next year. Bearing any injuries or any unfortunate things happening. But yeah, I think that'd be a really good addition if it does come to fruition.
And I think he brings, on top of what he brings on the field, and he is a very good receiver. He blocks well.
Yes.
And I think he knows how to be, he knows how to carry himself. I think he'll embrace a leadership role. I think he's going to really embrace being a number one because he's never had the opportunity to be a number one before. And I think he could really flourish here. And I was probably one of the people that when I saw Fleming, I was like, ooh, Fleming. And it looks like he's coming here now. It doesn't look like the Nebraska thing's going to work out. Kyle McCord went to Syracuse, so that package deal isn't happening at Nebraska. And yeah, it looks like he's coming. I hope. Is there anybody else in the portal we should be watching right now?
Colby Young, the Miami receiver, he just took a visit to Penn State. The obvious connection there is Lackawanna. Before he was at Miami, he was at the Lackawanna Junior College in Scranton that Penn State has pulled guys like Jair Brown, Jaquan Brisker from. So that's the obvious connection. But he is also from New York, I think Binghamton. So he's a regional guy. You know, he's been around. I'm sure he's heard his fair share of Penn State comments from people growing up and all that. So he visited this past weekend for an official visit. He also visited Georgia before Penn State. So we are not alone here in the Colby Young sweepstakes, but I think he's probably a guy that I don't want to make any like definitive statements, but I'd keep an eye on him. I think he could end up here for sure.
Yeah, stuff like this is always huge to get a guy for an official visit. And we all know the Lackawanna Penn State connection. Mark Duda and James Franklin, longtime friends. Lackawanna College, it's actually about 5 minutes away from my apartment. Mm-hmm. So it's it's just been a pipeline. Yeah, we have a fan question. Would you rather get Andre Green or would you rather get Colby Young? For me, it's pretty easy, but what do you think, Dylan?
I'd go with Colby Young. I mean, they both have the size, but Colby has a little bit more. They both have production, but Colby has a lot more. That's the main two comparisons that are pretty easy going in Colby Young's favor. So he's 6'5". He has 10 touchdowns over the last 2 years. I mean, what's not to like? I would love to add him, but also I'm going to throw in why not both? Just leave it there.
Honestly, yeah, I'm kind of the porque no los dos too. Because Andre Green, I would take Colby Young over him if it's a one or the other. Mm-hmm. But why not both? Because Andre Green, like I said, there's always a million reasons why somebody may not have been as productive at a place as you would expect it. I remember Andre Green from the recruiting trail. He was a guy Penn State did really, really want. And I think they want him again. And he was here not this past weekend, the weekend before. So those are two guys that Penn State's heavily involved with, as well as Julian Fleming. And the amount of size they'll bring in the room, too. Like, none of these guys are small. So,
yeah. I mean, I'd prefer Young, but, like, don't get twisted. I would love to have Andre Green as well. And I think him being a bit younger, he'll be a redshirt sophomore next year. So, I mean, sophomore eligibility, even though he's a third-year guy, that could provide a little bit more flexibility to take a guy like him. I wanted to pull up my text with a friend I have that covers North Carolina football. I just asked, like, why he was leaving or just any reason as to why he might have been departing. And he just said he's really good. I don't know why UNC didn't use him, quote. So I that seems to be the kind of consensus among the UNC fan base. Like, they're pretty upset that they didn't use him. It seems like an Amari Evans at UNC in a different style of receiver, but someone that they should have used a lot more and wants to go elsewhere and start over. And maybe the new opportunity, along with coaches playing him more, could be a star in the making.
Hey, let's make him a star right here in Happy Valley. I'm all good with that. Well, I think we covered everything we needed to cover, Dylan. So thank you for being here. Cory and I both thank you. Cory, by the way, for everybody watching, he produced this. So big thank you to Cory getting through everything. He is working behind the scenes today. So thank you to Cory. Dylan, thank you very much. Do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram, PSU Dylan. That's my main platform. So kind of a dead period right now, but I'll have some content out hopefully at the bowl game. I'll be attending that, so I'll hopefully be
very
able to
nice.
get some unique content out for down from Atlanta. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, no problem. When do you leave?
The 29th, game day eve, I guess. So just Friday through Sunday. So going up with
Good.
my dad, that'll be pretty exciting.
Good. That's awesome. Always good to go with your dad. Yeah. So you guys know the drill with us. Follow us at State Media PSU on YouTube. Click that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Hardcore PSU FB. Follow us on Instagram at Hardcore PSU FB. You can catch this podcast on everywhere that podcasts are found. And yeah, so I think that's everything for me. Dylan, again, so nice to have you on. And for PSU Dylan, I'm Shawn Kane, and I hope you all have a great night. Bye, everybody.